After winning the Ultimate X at United We Stand, Johnny Impact will now be challenging Rich Swann for the X Division Championship. Can the former Impact Wrestling champion claim more gold? I can see Rich Swann losing this battle to Johnny Impact, especially with Johnny Bravo possibly interfering. So I'm going to pick a new champion in Johnny Impact taking the X Division Championship from Rich Swann. And in the main event, it'll be Brian Cage defending the World Championship against the number one contender, Canada's own Michael Elgin. Michael Elgin has returned to Canada and North America, for that matter, from Japan, and is setting his sights on the Impact World Championship. However, this is, I believe, is one of Brian Cage's first championship defenses since winning the title from Johnny Impact and having been beat up by Michael Elgin and suffering injuries after doing the Spanish Fly from the stage to the floor. I don't see Brian Cage losing in his first effort. However, it's going to be a really hard-hitting affair between these two guys. They are both pound for pound very strong and very equal in size. I'm going to pick Brian Cage to retain the Impact World Championship. It all goes down Sunday, July 7th in Dallas, Texas. Impact Wrestling presents Slammiversary 2019, the 17th anniversary of Impact Wrestling. Impact Wrestling has also announced that they are in the home stretch towards Slammiversary on Sunday. However, before they get to Dallas, Impact Wrestling has 3 events set to take place. The first is Bash at the Brewery on Impact Plus. It all goes down Friday at 8 p.m. with the pre-show starting at 7:30. At Bash at the Brewery, you'll see the Rascals in action. Rosemary takes on Sue Young. Sammy Callahan goes one-on-one with RVD. Michael Elgin will face off against Eddie Edwards. Fulton and OVE take on Tessa Blanchard, Willie Mack, and Rich Swann. Jessica Havoc will go one-on-one with Jordan Grace. LAX will defend their championships against the Northern. And Brian Cage will take on Moose. It all happens this Friday at 7:30 on Twitch. Then you can see Impact Wrestling on Pursuit and Twitch Fight Network here in Canada at 10 p.m. on Friday. And then on Saturday, Impact Wrestling heads to Houston, Texas for a live Twitch special Deep Impact at 8 p.m. Followed by Sunday, Slammiversary live on pay-per-view, as well as Impact Plus and Fight TV. It's a full weekend of Impact Wrestling starting Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Following the news that the former hottest free agent in pro wrestling, Kenny Omega, is joining AEW, London Comic-Con can finally announce that the Best Belt Machine is making its way to Southwestern Ontario for London Comic-Con 2019 this October. Omega will be available to meet fans, sign autographs, and host a special VIP video game tournament. More details and announcements are coming soon. Check out London Comic-Con for more details. And now for some AEW news. Last Saturday night, All Elite Wrestling presented Fyter Fest from Daytona Beach, Florida, and it was free on the BR Live app or available for purchase on the Fight TV app. Fyter Fest was the second official event under the AEW banner, and the name was a parody of the fraudulent Fyre Fest that happened a few years ago where the concert didn't happen. They made some references to it during the pre-show. There were 3 matches on the buy-in and 6 matches on the full show. I actually got a record of 6-2-1 with my predictions on the last episode. So let's take a look back at what happened at Fyter Fest with the results. The Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta, defeated SoCal Uncensored, Scorpio Sky, and Frankie Kazarian, plus the team of Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy, and Mark Quinn. The Best Friends will now move on to All Out for an opportunity to get a bye in the first round of the AEW World Tag Team Championship Tournament that will start in October when AEW gets their deal for a TV show on TNT, which is presumably going to be a Wednesday night. There was a change in the women's match on the pre-show as Leva Bates then took on Allie instead of Kylie Ray. Didn't matter as Leva Bates ended up losing to Kylie Ray. There's been a lot of criticism over the whole librarians gimmick as it just really is annoying and cringe-worthy with Peter Avalon as opposed to being funny and entertaining. And they might need to tweak something there as they move forward in AEW. Michael Nakazawa defeated Alex Jabali in a hardcore match, which went all the way up to the ramp and the stage area where there was inflatable toys and a pool, and they made their way back to the ring. There was something going on with Nakazawa's thong coming out. It was a horrible match, let's just say. And Alex Jabali should never be in the wrestling ring ever again. Thank God it was over, but it definitely weakened what has been a promising presentation by AEW to the fact where something like this really, following the whole librarians thing, is not what fans, I think, really want. And yeah, I don't know what they're thinking on that one. But that was the pre-show, the buy-in, and then moved on to the main show of Fyter Fest. On the main show, it opened with Christopher Daniels taking on Sema. Sema picked up the victory. Rio surprisingly stole a victory over Yuka Sakazaki and Nyla Rose. Rose dominated most of the match, especially considering she was twice the size of both Rio and Sakazaki. Adam Page defeated Jimmy Havoc, Jungle Boy with Luchasaurus, and MJF in a four-way match. Adam Page will now go on to face off against Kip Sabian at Fight for the Fallen. Brandy Rhodes came down to the ringside with Cody to take on Darby Allin in a singles match, and they fought to a time limit draw. It was the first time the 20-minute draw has happened in Double or Nothing. After the match, Shawn Spears came into the ring and hit Cody with a direct headshot with a steel chair. It ended up cutting Cody up in the back of his head where his blood gushed from. He received 12 staples and was said to have not had a concussion. It was also mentioned that by the Young Bucks that the chair that was used was gimmicked, even though it was set up so it was an unprotected chair shot. It was supposed to be a protected chair shot because of the gimmick chair, and unfortunately something went wrong. It was obvious that the back of the chair caught Cody in the back of his head and caused the cut. However, I think it's really ridiculous in this age of concussion knowledge and CTE to even do a gimmicked chair shot unprotected to somebody's head. WWE was smart enough after the whole Chris Benoit incident to ban chair shots to the head. Whether they're gimmicked or not, it should never happen, and it's a poor example of what they're presenting. I understand AEW wants to do something different and present things that fans have been missing for years since the Attitude Era, yet they want to bury the Attitude Era. They're still confusing me on that one. However, That is not what you do to present something alternative and to take away the PG stuff of wrestling and put it into a more realistic version. That should still not be allowed, gimmick chair or not. What they called the official main event of Fyter Fest was the Elite, Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson, who all came out cosplaying as Street Fighter characters, defeating the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon Jr., Ray Phoenix, and Laredo Kid. This was one of the matches that I actually did get wrong, but hey, I guess in a way, since Cody didn't actually get a win, having the other executives get a win kind of balances out without it being a whole owners ruling everything, which I want them severely to avoid, because that's what's kind of turning people off of WWE right now with how much we're seeing Shane McMahon. Then they made a big deal of turning out the lights and turning them back on as though it was a totally different show for an unsanctioned, unofficial main event of the evening when Jon Moxley defeated Joey Janela in a non-sanctioned hardcore match. They used thumbtacks, there was barbed wire boards, barbed wire chairs, ladders, tables. They went all over the place. Boots were taken off of Janela by Moxley, and he was atomic dropped into the thumbtacks, and you could see somewhat of the pain on Janela's face when they were having thumbtacks going into his feet. And yeah, so at the end of the day, Moxley ended up picking up the victory, and that's setting him forward. And they're proving, at least with some of these matches that they've had so far, that wins and losses matter. And those who needed to win as they're going forward towards All Out at the end of August on the 31st have momentum and not some 50-50 booking as they go into their bigger matches on bigger shows. So if they continue, we'll see how it goes and their presentation of sports. But that was Fyter Fest. There is some hit and miss stuff, just like any organization. And I'm trying to say that they're better than WWE. That didn't prove it at Fyter Fest, I will say. The fans, I didn't feel were into it as much as they were for Double or Nothing. And I want both WWE and AEW, Ring of Honor, Impact, somebody, everybody to be successful in their ventures, because a stronger wrestling community means more content for us to watch, different presentations to watch, instead of the same old. And it's good for everybody, who, whether you're a fan, a podcaster, or a talent in the ring or behind the scenes. Everybody has a job somewhere or has some sort of enjoyment to have. So they need to maybe address some of these issues that kind of soured some people. There was also an announcement that just after Fyter Fest that the Elite and the Lucha Brothers will have a rematch along with Laredo Kid, and that'll happen at AAA's event Triple Mania 27, happening on August 3rd. And before that is Fight for the Fallen on July 13th. Fight for the Fallen will happen on July 13th in Jacksonville, Florida at Daly's Place. And they've stated that some of the proceeds from this event will be donated to victims of gun violence. We already know that WWE will be presenting Evolve's 10th anniversary special at the same time on the WWE Network, and that has kind of angered people like Kenny Omega, but that doesn't mean that Fight for the Fallen isn't going to happen. So at Fight for the Fallen, 5 matches have been announced. Just today, they announced Jimmy Havoc, Darby Allin, and Joey Janela taking on MJF, Sammy Guevara, and Shawn Spears in a 6-man tag team match. So you got 3 guys who really love the hardcore wrestling taking on the other three